Hey, hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. Just how far will Sean O'Malley go? Do you think he will fight Gervonta Davis in boxing? Or will he go on a 10-fight title defense run? What will happen to Garry? Will he be the next Conor McGregor-esque kind of fighter? Lots to talk about tonight. Hello and welcome to the stream. As always, like I said, we're going to be recapping the events from UFC 292. Lots to talk about. Like I said, we're going to be talking about that potential call-out from Sean O'Malley. We've got an update from Conor McGregor. He's provided us with a return date. So lots to talk about on that front. We've got an update on Volkanovski's return and what his next opponent might be. We're going to be talking about the UFC Strawweight title picture now. We're going to be talking about Thompson versus Garry, perhaps. Lots to get through. There's going to be so much more. So make sure you smash a like on the video. And, of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. How we doing, folks? Hello, indeed. Morning, says Breezy. Like the damn video. Yes, Breezy knows. Listen to Breezy. He knows what's best. Yes, Steve-O. He says, sup. Hello, boys, says Ash. And, of course, there's Stephen saying hello to Ash as well. Good stuff. Good old vibes in the chats so far. Are we ready to get into this main card? Before we do that, then, though, we should probably get some honourable mentions in. Of course, congratulations to Brad Katona for becoming a two-time tough winner. He defeated Cody Gibson by unanimous decision. Kurt Holloway defeating Austin Hubbard was a bit of a shock one for me. Gregory Rodriguez, back to winning ways, stormed through Dennis Tullian, and of course Brad Tavares beating former middleweight champion in Chris Weidman. Lots to get through, man. Jam-packed fight card overall. The main card was absolutely banging. Only one decision. One TKO, of course. But, you know, the fights that went the distance were pretty entertaining to watch. Kept us on our toes. That's for sure. But let's dive straight into them then and talk about the first fight of the night, which was... Why is my keyboard suddenly not working? That's really annoying. I had to, like, pack up at the wrong time, didn't it? Like, come on, bro. Come on. Let's get into that, but that's what we want. All right, so kicking it off then, Marlon Vera defeating Pedro Munoz via unanimous decision, 30-27 for two judges. To be honest, you know, I at first thought that Pedro won the fight. Just there was a lot going on, to be fair. But I think second time round, you just happened to notice that Vera was landing when Pedro was kind of missing in those kind of quick exchanges. So props to the judges for getting that one, of course. And Marlon Vera moves on back to winning ways against, a very tough Pedro Munoz. Been around the block for some time, fought the who's who as well. And I guess so has Marlon Vera in a lot of ways as well. Both guys were... I wouldn't say mirror kind of like each other as much. There are some differences between them, but both very talented strikers for the bantamweight division. But I guess what the question we want to know now is what is next for the both of them. We've got two options for Marlon Vera. What do you guys reckon? Can't wait to get into the conversation of it. Before we do that, let's get into a few chats then. Ash says, yes, HR is in the house. Was a great card, says Steve O. Steve says, apparently Cody Gibson will be getting looked after, said Dana. Ooh, that's good. I mean, you know, all I'm going to say is keep an eye out on the ATF space in terms of Cody Gibson, because something might be coming your way very soon. Who knows? That's just early murmurings around the, you know, conversations being made. So that's all I'm going to say on that front for now. Stephen says it was hard to judge due to how quick the exchanges were. And yeah, spot on. I thought that as well. Ash said it was the same. Thought Pedro won it. Pudian, says Ash, book it. Yeah, Pudian is on my list. Breezy says, please can I see the policies? I don't know what he's on about there. What are you referring to, Breezy? Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already, and welcome in, guys. Let's get these guys in. Pidion is one of my options on there. You know, it's been mentioned before, time and time again on the channel, to be honest. Pidion desperately needs a win. Jan might be more well-rounded than Cheeto, though. That's what I think that makes that fight really intriguing. I think it's a good test. If we look at the rankings now, let me clear that chat real quick. And head on back forward then. As we can see, these are the updated rankings from UFC.com. And as you can see there, not much has changed in the bottom half. Of course, the championship has changed hands. But we've got Pedro Munoz sitting in number 10, Marlon Vera at number 6, Pidion in number 5. So, you know, it makes a lot of sense. With Pidion is on what now? How many loss streak is he on now? That's a 3-loss streak. And I think the UFC would be giving him justice by giving him someone like Marlon Vera, who's only one spot below him. I think it's a fun fight. I would love to see it. Again, I'd like to say all these big banging fights, to just put them on a pay-per-view headliner, but maybe that one might be good on a prelim. Maybe on a prelim. A card opener, main card opener on a pay-per-view. That's where I give that. But the other option I've got for Marlon Vera, I think would be a fun one. It was the original fight that was meant to take place, but will they rebook it is the ultimate question, which is Henry Cejudo. And Stephen even says, I don't see Cejudo doing anything but big fights. Well, he originally accepted that Marlon Vera fight, didn't he? Then he pulled out due to shoulder injury. And then he kind of say on his YouTube channel that he did want to fight somebody further up and maybe hang out just in case Sean O'Malley wins. So, I mean, madness for him to come out that way. But I think the UFC should really rebook it. Because personally, Cejudo needs a win against a ranked opponent. You know, he's had a long hiatus, thrown in against the champion straight away, came up short. Let's get a win first in the rankings, and then let's look to get you back in there for a title shot. And I think beating a former champ for Marlon Vera would put him in line for a rematch against Sean O'Malley. Because, you know, we're going to talk about Marlon Vera versus Sean O'Malley a little bit later on, so do stay tuned for that. But, you know, my early thoughts on that is kind of like, I guess it makes sense because Marlon Vera's already beaten O'Malley. But don't you just think, you know, he's further down in the rankings for it? He's in at number 6. It's a bit of a jump for somebody who's just won the belt. I mean, that's my opinion anyways. But we'll get to more of that in just a sec. Hello, everyone. Salute, lads, says Raphael. Yes, Raphael. Good to see you, my man. What do you reckon's next for Marlon Vera? Get in the chats. Can't wait to hear what you have to say on this matter. Pidion or Henry Cejudo. You know, they're the options I've got. And if you've got an alternative option, please share it with us in the chat. As for Pedro Munoz, though, I've got 2 options for him. Well, 3. Depending on the outcome, of course. My first one would be the winner of Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez. Because if you have a look on there, we got both guys in at 14 and 13. And look, you got Pedro Munoz. He's not had the greatest of runs lately, has he? He's a bit of a gatekeeper for the top 10, I'd say, because he only seems to lose to these kind of legends. Now, I don't know if you want to call Marlon Vera a legend as such, but he's been in there against the who's who. So for him to pass that test, I think is really good for him. But yeah, for Pedro Munoz, like if either of those guys, if Adrian Yanez beats Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez fell short against Rob Font, which I felt, you know, in a lot of ways is a bit of a far jump for Rob Font. Is Pedro Munoz that next kind of line, you know? That's the question, really. Could someone like Adrian Yanez, would he be ready for someone like as someone as experienced as Pedro Munoz? So interesting one. My other option then for Pedro Munoz would be Ricky Simone. I think we mentioned about it in the watch along. Ricky Simone's takedowns will be relentless as always. We know that. However, he struggled against Song Yadong, who's very quick on his feet and got great movement. And, you know, Munoz himself is very difficult to take down as well. And I think the only person, if I remember, the last person I remember to take Munoz down might have been Jimmy Rivera, who's no longer in the organization. And even then, Jimmy Rivera, I mean, Pedro Munoz was threatening guillotines and all sorts in order to get back to his feet. So, yeah, I think it's a great test for both guys, personally. Ricky Simone's a very strong dude. Can he get Pedro Munoz down would be the ultimate question. Or can Pedro Munoz piece Ricky Simone up on the feet? I don't know which option I'd prefer, really, out of Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez, or Ricky Simone. Jonathan Martinez is a bit of a more calculated striker. He's not going to bring the most output. He's got some good hands on him, I must admit. So maybe it would be another fight for Pedro Munoz to kind of stick on the outside and pepper him with leg kicks. I don't know. What do you guys reckon? Let's get some chats then before we move swiftly on. George Merry's in the house. Evening, ladies and MMA lovers. Evening, not even. Yes, well, good evening, George Merry. Good to see you back in the chats as always, my man. What do you reckon's back next for Marlon Vera and Pedro Munoz? Interested to get your thoughts. Before we move on real quick. Steven says, does Umar have a fight booked? No, he doesn't. He did pull out, of course, don't forget, against Corey Sandhagen. So, yes, we need to know when he's going to return and what that could be. Could the UFC give him another jump up the rankings, in which case I'd expect it to be maybe a Rob Font. You know? Rob Font would be my best guess. Dominic Cruz never fights, so I can't see when he's going to be back in there. But yeah, Umar could fight PDR. Could they throw him to PDR? That's the question. Yeah, a lot of fights for him. I'm excited to see what's next for Umar. Because he nearly made my ones to watch at the start of the year. But I didn't put him in there. I think Ash did. I didn't put him in there because I felt that no one would want to fight him. And look, he's barely touched the surface this year. In fact, he's fought in January, and that was it, against Ronnie Barcelos. So, you know, he's yet to fight again. So he's not made the biggest of movements, in my opinion. And even I think he agrees with that. Ash agrees with you as well. Breezy says, I think you book Murad Wallace versus Vera first. Ooh, do you reckon? I like that one. It depends what the UFC really want to do. And we're going to get into that a little bit later in terms of, you know, the overall matchups for the top half of the bantamweight division when we talk about Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley now. Raphael says, even I was shocked about O'Malley winning the championship, but I think they're going to book a fight for that division. Yeah, I mean, is it going to be a boxing match? We'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about Sean O'Malley. Is it going to be a boxing match? Is he going to fight Marlon Vera? Is he going to fight Aljamain Sterling for a rematch? Is he going to fight, you know, Marab? Who knows? There's a lot of options for him. Can't wait. Or Corey Sandhagen. This division has a lot of movement both ways, so Steve. Yeah, it can go literally anywhere at the moment. And it's really exciting. I think it's the most exciting division. I do, hands down. I think it's just about more exciting than lightweight. And the reason for being is because a lot of the lightweights at the top half of that division are kind of holding back and bringing contenders through. You've got a lot of big names out there that will kind of only fight each other. And I think it's on a little bit of a standstill, that division. So, you know, I like bantamweight personally. George Murray says Cheeto versus Sterling if he stays. If not, gots to be Yarn or Marab. The real contenders the real contenders Triple C. Oh mate, I don't know. We've got a Triple C fan in the house. Is George Murray. Steven says Umar versus Marab will be. Oh, Dave. Oh. Hang on. Give me a minute. I think I just ejaculated. That is an amazing fight. Hopefully we'll get that later on down the line. I can't see him doing it just yet, though. I can't see him just doing it just yet. So yeah, there were my options. Let's move on then. Great chat so far already, guys. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. Welcome on in. Here we go to the next fight, which is I'm still trying to use this bloody keyboard. Right, it's just typical, isn't it? These things just break on you at the least. The time you don't want them to break on you. Second fight on the main card. Mario Bautista picking up the win against Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear, of course, 2 fights in 2 weeks. And did we see it is the question. You know, I think Mario Bautista was just that step ahead of him in all the exchanges. He moves now on to 13-2. So he's looking really good, just outside of the rankings as well. But the ultimate question is, what is next for him? So we've got one quick name for him. I want to give him Kyler Phillips. I think Kyler Phillips is 11-2, similar in kind of competition, similar experience. Just come off a unanimous decision win against Ronnie Barcelos earlier this month. Time-wise, this fight makes sense. Of course, it depends on injuries. We don't necessarily get to hear everything from these fighters after fight night. So there could be some niggles. Who knows? George says, Stephen, that's Takedown City. That, mate, I would like a standing punch. Okay. I'm not a Henry fan. Can't stand him. Oh, okay. All right. I think, okay, contenders FCCC. So, okay, that's what you meant now. I thought it was a typo. Okay, yeah. Likewise, bro. Likewise. But yeah, Kylie Phillips versus Mario Bautista for me, I think makes a lot of sense. I like that fight, and I think they should make it next. As for Damon Blackshear, though, I've got one option for him as well. He, unfortunately, moves to 14-6 with 1. Brady Heinstead. Now, he's got the experience advantage over Heinstead, which is a bit of a factor. But I think it's another fight that's kind of would be a joy to watch on the ground, in my opinion. Brady last beat Backrell Dinar. I think that's how he says it. It's not Dana, it's Dinar. Back in April via TKO in the 3rd round. But, you know, is he due a fight announcement soon is the ultimate question. But look, hey, who knows with Damon Blackshear? He might want to get straight back in there, you know? He might be itching to get back in there after losing. So, who knows? Don't shout, Cesar. Sorry. So I'm getting too excited. I'm too excited over it. I'll lean back a little bit. So yeah, they're my 2 picks for those fights. Let us know what you made of that fight, and of course, what's next for these 2. If you got a name, feel free to pop it in the chat. But we're going to move on then to the next fight. Oh, bosh. We didn't go to the rankings. We didn't really need to go for the rankings, of course. That was back to the same division, bantamweight division. Of course, Ian Garry. There's a lot to talk about with Ian Garry, isn't there? Man, every time we see this guy, he looks better and better. You know, his confidence grows with each fight. He's doing everything he can to level up as a fighter. He's bouncing between different camps, going to Brazil, then back to, I think is it Florida. Then he's he's training with Leon Edwards in the UK. Like, he's not really settled in a home, I don't think. The guy's all over the place, which, fair play. But yeah, I think there's a lot of questions to come out of this performance from Neil Magny. Look, he put on an absolute clinic, you know. The leg kicks were devastating to watch. We kind of wanted Neil Magny's team to throw in the towel. But the only knock on for Ian Garry is he kind of needed to finish, you know. Because a lot of fans are gonna look to Ian Garry and think, is he really the next Conor McGregor? You know, could he replace Conor McGregor as this Irish superstar? It kind of looks like it's going that way because he just looks unstoppable in a lot of ways. But when you compare the rise of Conor, he was knocking everyone out, and to not finish Neil Magny is, you know, puts a dent in it a little bit. Now, you could have counter-argued and say, well, he beat the brakes off of him. The judges' scorecards were flawless. You know, what were those scorecards? Like, Garry, 30-26, 30-24. Like, that's madness still. So you could look at it that way. But personally, I don't think he's going to be that next Conor McGregor level superstar. You know, I think people will struggle to get on board with him because he just kind of looks like this young kid almost, you know? Who's just plays a lot of games leading up to fight week, and he just, I don't know, he's got this baby face about him. I don't know, that's just my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think. What do you guys think about Ian Garry? A lot of guys think he's a bit cringy as well, but is that because we've already effectively seen that blueprint? You know? We've seen this Irish phenom come through before and calling the shots and having this kind of level of confidence about himself. So we've already seen it. I don't know. Does he need to be a bit different? But I've heard that that's apparently who he is. You know, he's not putting on this act. Don't know. Steven says Black Shear is probably the next on next week's card. Gotta agree with you. He says Wonderboy instantly said no to Garry according to Mr. White. That is indeed. We're gonna get into that in just a sec. Ash made his opinions known during the watch along that he hates Ian Garry. George says half the welterweight division fights out of Killcliff. Who's he gonna fight? That is true. That is true. Well, I've got one fight. Steven says McGregor was clearly outside of the fight too. McGregor didn't just get big through fighting. It was him. Garry's personality is annoying. So yeah, there's Steven just kind of differentiating the two personalities there. Tuto is in the house. Yes, Tuto! This is massive salutes and respects to the ATF crew and the fam, JK, Ash, Stephen, greetings from Italy. Yes, Tuto, good to see you in. What do you reckon's next for Ian Garry? Let's hear your thoughts. And of course, Neil Magny as well, which we're going to get into in just a sec. George Merry says Shavkat versus Garry. Well, funny you should mention that, George. I've got that on my list, but we should probably head to the rankings then. For the welterweight division, as you can see, Machado Garry moving in there at number 11. Neil Magny dropping in down at 12, so not much of a big jump. But yeah, that is one of the options that I've got because, I mean, I'll break down the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson stuff in just a sec. Shavkat, I think would be it makes sense. Garry did say in his post-fight interview that he was open to fighting the former teammate as well. So maybe they can get that fight materialised. Because other than that, Shavkat, it's just a little bit difficult who you give him. Because Bilal Muhammad's going to say no. Colby Covington's going to say no. Kamaru Usman, possibility. But got another option for Kamaru Usman. Stephen Thompson, the thought of what Thompson versus Garry. Garry made that big call out to him. He said he wants to fight in Vegas as a headliner, and he talked about featuring on that UFC 295 card, but he'd also said that he'd rather not do that because just to avoid the New York taxes. So there's possible 3 cards in December that the UFC want to bring, plus, not to mention, they did kind of want to do a pay-per-view for McGregor Chandler in December. So we'll have to see. But I think that's going to potentially is going to sail on that. But yes, as Stephen said, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson came out and he said he didn't really want that fight against Ian Garry. He doesn't want to fight down. So does Thompson get Kamaru Usman perhaps? I think there was a bit of talk about that. It kind of makes sense because Wonderboy is 40 years old now. He's going to want to fight one of these sort of like guys who have been around the same length of time as he has. So Kamaru Usman would make a sense. And look, Usman's fought pretty much nearly everyone bar Bilal Muhammad and Wonderboy. And of course Shavkat. So yeah, I think Wonderboy makes a lot of sense, I'm afraid. And we've not seen Usman completely wrestle people in a while. Not to the extent he did against Tyron Woodley and people like that. Here we go. Tuto getting some love in the chats there. Garry is definitely cringe. He's not McGregor. So Stephen, hands down. He says, I think Garry wants to take it slow. He will probably want Luque or something. Yeah, I think Luque, well, he's still, again, another guy he's trained with. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Hard to tell. Luque is a shout, so Ash agrees with you there. Garry looks big, though. Could we see him move up, says George Merry. I think someone said about it. I think someone did say that they see his potential at taking on or doing something similar to what Darren Till did. Make a run at welterweight, then move up to middleweight. But I don't know, man. I think welterweight would be his best position. He doesn't look too drained when he's on the scales doing the weight cuts. So I think that's a good one. I think Breezy was meant to say Sean Brady matchup, and of course Sean Brady pulled out not too long ago. Need to get a time frame on him. That would be interesting. But will Garry take that fight against a wrestler like Sean Brady? I think it's a good one, really. Striker versus grappler kind of contest. It's intriguing. I'm all for it. It's a good one. Stephen says, I don't think it's in Garry's best interest to move up, especially if he can cut easy. Yeah. And agree with you there. Would Garry take a lower rank JDM? I don't think he will. I think he's openly said that, especially with the conversations when Joaquin Buckley was trying to get a fight with him. He's like, why should I move down? Like, I have no need to. I'm on this win streak at the moment. I was knocking people out, and I should be fighting guys up. So that's fair enough. However, I would really like to see him fight Kevin Holland. I think that's a banging fight. That is an entertaining fight. That is box office press conference. But he's not going to take that. Because Kevin Holland beats JDM. He's not going to go anywhere in the rankings. So maybe one day. Let's keep fingers crossed, guys. Let's keep fingers crossed. Suga said, JK, please suit me up for heavyweight division against John Jones, and I'll guarantee you won't be able to walk off the octagon on his own power, mate. Oh, mate, I mean, I'll be intrigued to break that one down, Tuto, man. Would need a fighting style points for you, my man. I need to see some tapes on Tuto Azuri, especially maybe if he's getting some rucks in the on the rugby field there. Let's give Tuto some love. Steven says, or will Garry get the Jeff Neal fight? Yeah, again, maybe. Do they rebook it? That's the question. I mean, look, Jeff Neal's still in at number 8, so maybe little by little. Garry might be open to that. He maybe might not want to make big jumps, and I think someone like a Shavkat would actually be quite a bit of a big jump. The Wonderboy fight, he's personally targeted Wonderboy because he knows Wonderboy is... I mean, look, he looked good against Kevin Holland, granted, but he is getting on a bit, He's had some wear and tear as Wonderboy. So he's not got long left, and I think that's a perfect target for someone to pick out. But if you pick out Thompson and you beat Thompson, former title contender, then you've got no choice but to then fight these big cats in the top 5. So yeah, some solid stuff there. Man, cracking chats flying in at the moment. Steven says, moving up a weight class didn't go well for Till. No, exactly. But Till's a big boy anyway, and that's cut to welterweight was killing him. He was absolutely murdering people at welterweight, but yeah, I completely agree. And I think complacency got in there with Till as well. Yet to see that from Garry. Raphael says, I need to call Raphael DeSanio said, imagine if Colby Covington would challenge against Leon Edwards for the title. That would be shocking. I mean, look, that fight is still yet to be made. It's been rumoured for some time. We still don't know what's happening with it. I don't think Leon's budging, really. I don't think he wants to do it. So we'll see. If the UFC forced to strip Leon, that'd be mad. Steven says, Garry's made it clear he wants to go slow. Well then. That's probably why Thompson said no. He knows he's on borrowed time and only wants big names above him. And that's true. And I think Usman would actually do him wonders. He's on one last title run is Stephen Thompson. If he's able to get a fight with Usman, take out Usman, then that leaves him just below Bilal Muhammad, who beat him. And I guess he would leapfrog Gilbert Burns because he's coming off of a loss. Maybe. So that would shake up the welterweight division massively. Usman would move down hard. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for that. Give me that fight. I'm a Wonderboy fan, man. I have been. Since he arrived in the scene and, and was just starching the likes of Robert Whittaker out, man. I was gunning for him to be champion. God, it's not happened. Actually, that is true. Could rebook Jeff Neal. Steven says, Thompson can't afford to gatekeep or lose. It's his final shot. Hands down. Although I was quite surprised that he took the fight against Michel Pereira, though. There's a counterpoint to that. Michel Pereira was way down there. But Michel Pereira is now fighting a middleweight, which I think was the best move to make. All right. As for Neil Magny, though, the only option that I've got for him is he's, a bit of a gatekeeper, of course. He's not had the greatest of runs as of recent. Would be Gunnar Nelson because, they were meant to book that fight back in 2018, but Magny pulled out due to a meniscus injury. So maybe they'll look to rebook that. Both guys, highly experienced. Gunnar Nelson isn't ranked. So with Magny's recent run, I'd imagine they give him an unranked guy, And why not give him someone who's unranked but got quite experience on his belt as well? Like, as we can see, he's only 2 wins in his last 5. So, yes. I mean, but then, he's had some solid wins. That Daniel Rodriguez-Das was mental. But, It is what it is. But that's all we got time for on terms of Ian Garry and Neil Magny. Let's move on then to that co-main event. Weili Zhang put on an absolute clinic against Amanda Lemos, and I wasn't expecting the fight to be that one-sided. I thought her striking and grappling just seems to reach new levels every time we see her, and she's really becoming this well-rounded package of a mixed martial artist. But some questions for you guys. Is Weili Zhang Weili, now reaching untouchable levels, that we've seen before from Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes? Is she? Because from what I've seen in those last two performances, she is looking like that. And we've got to look at this division in terms of what's next for her and who can actually give her the toughest test in this division. Guys, get in the chats. I can't wait to get into this. Tuto says, here we go, mate. That's a quick highlight of my craft in this link. Known for savage tackles, body slam. Mate, I can't wait. I hope you sent us this in our DMs. DM me the video, bro. I can't wait to see it. George Murray says Magny versus Brian Barberena. Do you know what? That's a good one. I like that fight. Solid pick from George Murray there. Let's give George Murray some clapping emojis in the chats. And of course, hit the like button as well. Stephen says, good shout, George, as well. Yes, Mark Short, who's in the house. Mark Short says, I still really like Garry versus Luque. Fun stuff. Yeah, I think that is a fun one, of course. I don't know how close Garry and Luque are. That's the question, because, of course, Luque is very close with Gilbert Burns, and Gilbert Burns is very close with Ian Garry as well, because he was in Gary's corner this past weekend. Shavkat, though, I'm not sure how close he was with Shavkat, so I would personally side with the Shavkat option. That's just my opinion. But yeah, top options for Mark Short there. George says, got every fight right on. Yeah, man. He says, my bet right besides this one, Lemos owes me $4,000. Oh, smokes, man. George Murray went for the upset there. Woo! But yeah, is Weili Zhang really reaching these new levels? And what is the toughest test for her in this division? Well, let's head to the rankings then to have a look. Oh, sorry, let's bring that back up there. Because, of course, no changes, but let's use it to work out who's going to give us the toughest test. Personally, it's going to be Tatiana Suarez. All right, it's an interesting one, but can Zhang handle Suarez's grappling? That's the question. Yes, we've seen a lot of grappling from Weili Zhang as of recent, but is it enough to deal with Tatiana Suarez? Because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But I think Zhang will opt to keeping this fight on the feet, hands down. Don't touch the grappling with Suarez. You can out-move her. You got better footwork than her. You're faster than her. Put your combinations together, strike and move. Really get Tatiana Suarez frustrated in chasing you. And over time, you could look for a late finish. And that's how I could probably see that going for Suarez. However, if Zhang allows Suarez to get a hold of her, is she going to take her down is the question. Or can Zhang be good enough in the scrambles? I don't know, man. When I look at Tatiana Suarez's resume, look, she's had some solid wins. Former champions in there as well. Let's not forget that. Rose Namajunas, not Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, Alexa Grasso, the current flyweight champ, rear naked choke against her. The Jessica Andrade one, of course, another former champ. Guillotine choked her. Guillotine choked Montana De La Rosa. The only thing that the only performance that was questioning about Suarez was the Nina Nunes one, because she kind of struggled and faded in that third round against her, when she was a little bit struggling to get the takedowns at times. So, it's going to be intriguing to see how she looks against Weili Zhang. Again, Zhang's just very physical. She's just a nightmare for people at the moment. So I would think that's the most intriguing fight to make. My honest opinion. But, Other than that, the other option, which I think is a better option for the UFC, and it's to make a headliner in China against Yan Jinan. You know? I think it's the best fight for the UFC. Why not? Why would you not do that? Zhannan's now 17-3. That win against Jessica Andrade, Tico, madness. You know, she's really improved since that loss against Carla Esparza. But personally, that fight, I can see Zhang Weili just dominating, I'm afraid. But look, why not give a display for the Chinese fans? I think it's the best time to do it. Suarez, however, if you want to give her a fight, I mean, she should be the number one girl in the division. Let's be honest. She's beat Carla Esparza. Do you really run that back of the UFC? You don't really. They're not going to feed her Amanda Lemos. She could. They could give her Jandaroba. Jandaroba 2-fight win streak. Grappler. A lot of intrigue there with that one, but I don't know. George says Zhang versus Zhang and Colby would be married next year. Yeah, you know, he's so handsome. So who knows? Ash says I think Zhang finishes Suarez easy. Ooh, big call from Ash. I thought Ash was team Suarez, mate. I really did. Man, too close to call for me. Steven says Tatiana is the match to make. Zhang is amazing, but I felt there were so many close sub attempts on Saturday. Yeah, okay. Yeah, she really probably should have completely got her out there. You know, she should have. Damn right. Bit like Ian Garry should have stopped Neil Magny. Can see that, yeah. George says Grasso beats Valentina, second time around. Zhang versus Grasso, UFC 300. Ooh! George is bringing the heat tonight. Look, coming up with things that I didn't even think of. Ash saying, oi, George to that. Steven says, or a UFC China card, Zhang versus Young. And he says, great minds, JK. Yeah. I think the Suarez one is a great one for the fans, all the fans around the globe. But the Yan Jinan fight, I think, does better for the UFC in terms of just reach in China. You know, I think they need. I mean, like we mentioned before on the channel several times, is the UFC need to branch out more and more to different countries and bring fight nights over across this pond, especially post-COVID now. And if you want to keep up with the way that the other organisations are moving. Steven says, although I'd hate to see English versus English fighter on a London card. I would as well. I guess it all depends what that would be, wouldn't it? You know, I can't see the Brits getting that. The Brits would never get that. But look, I think for China, it probably could make sense. It would be a fight that they would get behind, maybe, with it being two people from their own country. I think because the way that the people in Asia view martial arts is a lot different than we do. They really admire it as an art form. That's why when you watch those events, the crowd is just absolute silence. You know, everyone's focused on every single little detail that's going on in the exchanges. So yeah, I think for that reason, that's why two people from the same country, I think, make a lot of sense. As for Amanda Lemos, though, I've got one option for her, and I would give her. We mentioned the watch long. Jandaroba. Verna Jandaroba. She's 19-3. Yes, it's a grappler. For Amanda Lemos, it's not giving her a lot to go off of there. I'm sure she'd prefer a striker next time out. But Jandaroba isn't the most athletic in this division, really, is she? Of fighters. Nor is she the quickest either, I think, in the women's strawweight division. So for that reason, that's why that fight would be intriguing for me. It's, can Amanda Lemos keep it on the feet? Can she stuff takedowns, avoid the submission threats, and really make it a technical striking clinic? Because I think she really struggled to get going against Zhang, and Zhang was just too quick for her, too quick. And the timing of takedowns was just too much for her, you know? This is what it is. Steven says, I think the UFC would want to spread the Chinese fighters out over the card rather than make them fight each other. Okay, that's a fair point, Steve. Yeah, especially, I guess, when you're given the roster. I mean, they're doing a lot over there, aren't they? They've got the Road to the UFC program that is out in Asia. So they've got some Chinese fighters that they can probably materialize. They can put together over there. But then I guess, yeah, maybe they might want to separate the big names a little bit. So yeah, fair point. Lemos was tough as hell to stick out 5 rounds. Yeah, I totally agree. You know, I really liked watching Amanda Lemos come up. But you know, after seeing her, she was doing well against Andrade until she got caught, to be fair. But to get caught like that, you know, you kind of left questions to us. It's like, is she really ready for a title fight? And then, you know, all right, the bounce back against Marina Rodriguez really stunned us. To finish Marina was a good feat in itself, because not many people have done that. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think, yeah, I guess the title shot was worthy, but not against someone like Weili Zhang. Mark Short says, imagine Mackenzie Dern sneaking into a title shot with a win over Andrade. Yeah, I agree. I think that fight's a really good one, to be honest. You know, I think what shocked me was the fact that Blanchfield was able to get Andrade down. What Mackenzie Dern lacks is her wrestling. She's really struggled with that. You know, she should have beaten the likes of Yan Jinan. She should have beaten. Okay, she came off the win against Angela Hill. It wasn't like the best of performances. You know, Marina Rodriguez was another one. She is this grappling threat, and she is kind of developing slowly but surely. But I didn't see too much of that development against Angela Hill, I'm afraid. So the Andrade fight worries me a little bit, but at the same time, Andrade has been on slippery slope, hasn't she? You know, she's not looked good. And I said in the last Aftermath show, I felt that she's trying to fight out this current contract, because this is going to be her 5th fight this year. That's madness to stay that active. So that area would favour Mackenzie Dern massively. So I like that fight. I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm going to be nervous, though, watching it, of course. I hope Miguel Mackenzie picks up the win. Steve says, did you see the absolute Giga Chad sat next to Dern at UFC on Saturday? Mate, we was having fun up until this point, Steve, in this Aftermath show, and then you had to mention that. I mean, look, just give me a few moments, guys. Give me a few moments. Because, man, yes, he's a weldie. Fair play. You know, I'm not jealous. I'm joking. George Merry says, need more of the road to UFC to boost the Asian cards. Yeah, I wonder how well that's actually doing over in China. I wonder what the numbers are like. Because I don't pay too much attention to it. I don't know how much of the US pay attention to it. Yeah, is it something? I think they are continuing with it. So, yeah, interesting. Steve says, yeah, I'd love to see more Asian fighters. Yeah. I mean, there's some good people coming out, man. Some good people. They also need exposure on these US cards, I think. But it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Steven says, it makes me think she doesn't like small, pasty English guys. That's us out, gents. Yeah, well, I mean, look, if we lived out in Florida, we'd also be quite tanned all year round. You know, don't knock yourself down, bro. Don't just knock yourself down. There's still hope. Yeah, cracking chats as always, guys. I think we're going to leave it there in terms of the co-main event. Smash the like on the video if you've not done so already as well, guys. And if you've got alternative options for these ladies, let us know in the chats. Let's move on then to the main event before we head on to some news chats. Two news headline topics. Let's talk about Sean O'Malley's impressive win against Aljamain Sterling. The first round was very difficult to score. It's very even out round. But when that knockout came, man, that shocked us all. I wasn't sure whether Sean O'Malley was going to be able to pull that off against someone like Aljo. And I thought that Aljo would be a little bit more relentless with his takedown attempts. It surprised me. But he said in his post-fight interview that he just wanted it to make it an entertaining fight and not a snooze fest for people. But look, if you're against a devastating counter-striker, you got to do what you got to do to stay at the top. Sorry. I know, look, we as fans want to see those entertaining barn burner fights every single time. But, you know, from his perspective, I guess, you know, you could win a bonus. But, you know, it's big risk, big reward, isn't it? At the end of the day. Yeah, I don't know what's up with Aljo. Not only that, I guess maybe he might have been a little bit disheartened because he was hoping to have more rest after the title defense against Henry Cejudo. And funnily enough, the UFC wanted to get him back in there straight away against Suga, who had not fought since October. So the chips were stacked in Suga's side for this fight, but we've all just not really realised it. You know, I didn't come fight night. I thought the easiest pick to make was Sterling via takedown, get the back, rear naked choke, job done. You know? Yes, O'Malley does work on his grappling quite a bit. He does do the UFC grappling invitationals. We've seen him in there. Submitted Takanori Gomi, mate. That's pretty decent. But yeah, I just couldn't see Suga really dealing with Aljo on the ground. And, you know, with Aljo to come out with that statement after the fight, you got to think, well, what did you do in that first round? What did you do? You didn't make it entertaining. You weren't throwing wild and trying to put on a show for everybody. You might as well just taken him down. First round sub, early night. I don't know, man. I don't know. Bit of a weird one for me. And of course, there's a lot probably going on in Aljamain's mind. I've got to sympathise with him. Of course, it's not easy. It wasn't easy. It just wasn't his night either. For Aljamain Sterling, then before I get into Sean O'Malley, he wants a rematch, but does the UFC and Sean O'Malley want that move? I don't think so. I think he's going to miss out on that personally. And for that reason, I would give him, depending on his option, of course, whether he wants to move up to featherweight, whether he wants to stay at bantamweight. Hopefully he takes his time, really reflect, decide what's best for him. Maybe moving up would be best for him. I think his team will probably encourage him to do that. And of course, that's going to then bring Merab into the fold for potential title fights. But if he's going to stick at bantamweight, I think a fight with Corey Sandhagen, a rematch, makes a lot of sense. Because, you know, he's going to need a win if he wants to get back in there. And when you look at this division, you know, you look at it and it's like, what else is there for you? No one wants to see him fight Pidian again. We've already seen that twice. No, the rematch against Henry Cejudo could happen, I guess. It's probably good for Henry Cejudo. Does Aljo really want that again, though? Marlon Vera, someone mentioned earlier, I think is a good one. It's another fight that puts Marlon Vera in there should he beat Aljamain Sterling. And of course, the two have not fought before. But does Aljo want to fight somebody that far down in the number 6? Or he could just rematch Corey. Corey's on a tear, 3-fight win streak. Beat Corey. What else is there? Are you back in there if you beat Corey? That's a question. Steve says, I've lost my cursor. I've always got Joanna. Okay, all right. It's the Steve Setter one with Joanna then. George says, Steve, plenty of fish in the sea. Depends how far you can swim. That's a good way to look at it, George. Steve says, did you guys see the messages exchanged between Cejudo and Aljo? No, I actually didn't. The night before the fight, asking for advice. Oh. Apparently, Suga couldn't train wrestling during the training camp due to rib injury. That's a good mention. That is something I forgot to put in this as well. I did hear that. So that's another thing for that stacks into to Aljo's side there. Like, why did you lost your shot. This might have been the best chance to beat Suga. Best opportunity you're going to get to beat O'Malley. And you failed. You should have just gone with your gut and just taken him down. O'Malley versus Yarn 2, says George. It was a close fight. The UFC could really rebook that. It's a tough sell with Peter Yan coming off a loss, I'm afraid. I think, if he was to fight Marlon Vera, then of course maybe. We'll talk about that in a sec. Jan's on a lose streak though, says Steve-O. Yep. Merab is just boring, says George. Steven says for sure, but Merab is a machine. I don't see him losing. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be difficult to beat. George says great character, but just loves a takedown. Fight starts on the feet, but he can't wait to get down to the canvas. Yeah, I know, it's just the way it is, isn't it? Matt W is in the house. Yes, Matt W, welcome on in, brother. Hit that like button. Let's hear your thoughts. He says, personally, I don't think Merab should get the shot. He got rocked by Marlon and couldn't even KO him. He had the TKO, a gassed opponent. No chance he beats Suga, but Vera can because he has. Wow, interesting take from Matt, and I got to agree with you there as well. That's a good point, very good point. We didn't really see the finishing capabilities of Merab, so but then he could very well just ride out another decision win and put on an absolute clinic like he did last time out against Peter Yan. Steven says Sterling's in a weird position. He's taking title opportunities away from Merab too. And yeah, I think that might play into the fact of why he might move up as well. Not just the weight cuts. But as for Sugar Sean O'Malley though, what's next for him? We'll talk about boxing in just a second. So do hands stay tight. Look, there's two options here. You've got one option that's best for the rankings, and you've got one option that's best in terms of hype. In terms of rankings, Merab is the fight to make should Aljamain move up. He's beaten everybody. Look, he's a 9-fight win streak. There's a story to tell there as well because he is Aljamain's teammate. So there is some kind of selling points there. The fact that he's destroying people, and there's highlights of him doing that, of course. Yeah, okay, he's not finishing people, but like his pace that he puts on people are just is just unreal. So yeah, I think that fight makes sense in terms of rankings. It depends on what the fans want to see. In terms of hype, of course, Marlon Vera, and yeah, you could say, well, Marlon Vera doesn't make sense because he's ranked in at number 6. The counter argument is, well, he has beaten O'Malley. But O'Malley, I think, clearly wants that fight back, because he already shot the promo for it in his post-fight interview. Didn't he? He said the fight, what was Marlon Vera's outcome? Did he win in a boring decision? Yeah, okay, thought so. I think the UFC can use that. So he wants that fight, he does. Maybe he looks at it and thinks it's a fight that he can win. He might think, well, if I can beat Peter Yan, who's got insane pace, Marlon Vera doesn't necessarily put pace on people. If I can strike and move against Vera, then maybe I've got a good chance of beating him. Because both guys are probably got similar levels of power. I don't know who you'd side power with in that one. Do you decide it with Suga or do you side it with Vera? It's an interesting question. George says, got to be Sandhagen versus O'Malley. Only real contender. Merab injured. Okay, yeah. Henry is washed out. Sterling move up. Only other option is Cheeto, but I'm not Dana White. Yeah, I would love to see Corey Sandhagen put in there. I really do, because I really rate Corey. I don't know if the UFC are going to do that, because of the last performance against Rob Font. It wasn't lackluster, but then you can make that argument with Cheeto. But then on the other flip handball, Cheeto's already beat him, and that's your selling point. So the Cheeto fight actually makes more sense than Corey Sandhagen, really, when it comes down to it. Sugar has lots of options. So Steve, he says Cheeto, Sandhagen, Merab. Raphael says Cheeto Vera should have a title shot on the bantamweight position against Sandhagen. I don't know what you mean about that, bro. We get number one contender position. Yeah, okay. I like that option, Raphael. I'm with you on that one. Depends on, I guess, how quick or when O'Malley wants to get in there. But then Sandhagen's also injured. He injured his biceps, so we don't even know when he's going to be ready. Man, there's a lot to consider in this. Steven says, I'd rather Cejudo stays out and out of this as he has no intentions to take the division seriously. He comes and goes as he wants, like McGregor. Yeah, but the reason why Cejudo came back is he really wanted that. He wanted to fight Volkanovski. That was his real reason for coming back. But I think the UFC basically said to him, well, look, we'll give you a title shot at bantamweight. You pass that, well, then we'll give you Volkanovski. Because then that fight, champ versus champ, you get the shot of being triple or quadruple C. And he liked that idea. And it's not worked out for him. It's backfired. And this is where we are. You know, he's got to stick with and fight someone in the rankings, I'm afraid. Stephen says, can Cheeto jump over Sanhagen, though, to get a title shot? That is also a good question. Look, I mean, the UFC would say yes, because that fight would sell more, we think. Would be a bit more intriguing to fans, I think. George says, Umar versus Cheeto. If Cheeto wins, then yeah, he's next. Ooh. Maybe against a 16-0 guy, but it doesn't do him any favors in the rankings, and you'd expect someone else to shine through, I think, above him. Sanhagen is injured, so Vera can get it in this year. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that is probably the excuse to jump, because look, we've seen it in other divisions. Other people have got title shots over the other. Prime example is Strickland against Izzy. Izzy wants to fight in Australia. Dricus is injured. He's not ready. In comes Sean Strickland. So, yeah, that's a perfect excuse, and it works well for the UFC. All right, top stuff, guys. Top stuff. I personally, out of those picks, though, have Merab and Vera. I think I'd rather see Merab. But, yeah. Part of me wants to see Sanhagen, but I know it doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm not going in there. So let's all agree, Cheeto, says Stephen. Oh, we could go back and forth all night, ladies and gents. But, yeah, I don't know. Marab for me. All right, let's move on to some headlines then, shall we? Oh, not that one, though. That's an old one. We went through that last time. In fact, I'm going to shrink a little bit. The box is a little bit off. Number one, we've got then, heading into this, let's talk more about Sean O'Malley. He wants Gervonta Davis. I mean, bit of a wild one, isn't it, to call out when you've just won the belt. But we can see what he's trying to do in this, can't we? You know, he wants to take a page out of Conor McGregor's book because it got him a ton of money. And Suga clearly wants those money fights. But, you know, there's a lot to dissect in this. Can O'Malley reach Conor McGregor levels of stardom for this fight to materialise? Is he there yet? I don't. He might. He could be. I don't really see it, because when Suga fights, okay, there's people that put wigs on and do all that, but the Fighting Irish really carried McGregor's stardom. We don't see that kind of levels of fans with O'Malley, so it's hard to really say. I mean, I don't follow his podcast. I don't really watch any of his Twitch streams, so I don't know. I honestly can't see that boxing match happening. And you've got to ask a lot of questions. You've got to ask, is it a good idea for the UFC, and would the UFC make it happen, given the knock-on effect that came after the Mayweather and McGregor fight? Because yeah, okay, they got some money out of it, but there was a lot of heat come after that from fighter pay. You know, that's when all of that started to come through. So, you know, do you want to add fuel to that fire as a business? You know, could it help more fighters leave your organization to join the likes of PFL? And then therefore you're no longer the main dog MMA promotion in the world. So there's a lot to ride on the UFC here, should they decide to do that. And I've heard that they don't really want to entertain these cross-promotion boxing matches anymore. And And also, not to add, would it be embarrassing for Sean O'Malley? You know, to get knocked out by Gervonta Davis when he's in the prime of his career. You know, because where Conor was at, okay, Conor was the lightweight champion, but he'd also just previously lost to Nate Diaz. So, and was a much older than Sugar Sean. So when you get to that kind of level in your career where you've almost done it, that's when you should take these crazy fights, right? Interesting. Let's get what Stephen's opinion. He says the UFC won't allow him to do a boxing match though. And McGregor is a once every 30 year type of fame. Fame, sorry. Yeah. Completely with you on that, Stephen. He says McGregor level of fame superseded the UFC and MMA. He's a household name. Yeah. Gotta agree with Stephen there. McGregor did get a little bit too big for the UFC, and that is true. And I don't think they're going to allow Sugar to get that big. I mean, they could, but stick to MMA, I think. MMA fighters need to stop thinking they can beat boxers. It's getting silly. But then it's all just part of the promotion, isn't it? It's all part of them getting this big pay packet, and that's effectively what they want at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah, it's a difficult one. I personally think he shouldn't do it. I think he should probably defend the belt once, then maybe entertain the idea of a super fight with Volkanovski. I think that's probably his best bet. Because if you can become a double champ, then you can really evaluate where your stardom is at then. And then go, well, look, I've been a double champ. I could very well follow in McGregor's footsteps here. The UFC, I want to do this. Numbers-wise, it will kill. So why not? You know, but it's gonna be difficult for it to see it play out. I'm afraid. Difficult for it to play out. Also, not to add in here, it says at 28 years old, O'Malley is now the youngest champion in the UFC currently, as it stands, and already tied for second in knockouts in the division's history. The Sugar Show is just getting started. So, like I said at the start of the stream, guys, how far will O'Malley go? It's a big question. It's hard to tell. It's hard to say. Do you think he's going to go on a 5-fight defending streak? Do you think he's going to make one defense and then fight Volkanovski or whoever's holding the featherweight belt at the time? He could. But then there's not really any... He's not really come out and tried to put a stamp on it in his post-fight interview and go, I want Volkanovski next. He's not. So maybe one defense I think is better. One defense, but does he do it? Against Merab, maybe not. Better chance against Marlon Vera. So I think if you're Cheeto, you are going to do your absolute utmost to get that fight, defend the belt, and then look on from there. And really evaluate things. Steven says it's a shame that UFC fighters have to look outside of the UFC for big money. 100% is, but we need more fans into sport. We need more. We simply do. We need to educate more fans and get people in, and that's part of the reason why we created this fan channel. Steven says Sugar is the second fighter from the Dana White Contender Series to win a title. Name the first for 10 points. I mean, that's obvious. Jamal Hill. But will there be any more? Does Sugar have the power in his hands to hurt Volk? I can't see it. I don't think he does. It would be something, wouldn't it? O'Malley would really need to catch Volk at the right time. And maybe that's the reason what might be a good thing to get a couple of defenses under your belt. Because Volkanovski's not going to get any better. Or not going to get... he's in his prime at the moment, really, isn't he? And wear and tear should probably reach him at some point. Interesting. Matt W says, hell nah, Vera gonna take the belt and fight Sanhagen for that rematch. Yeah, okay. All right. Big call from Matt W there. Smash like on the video if you're, all for Matt's take on there. I wouldn't mind that. I'm a Sanhagen fan, absolutely. Steve-O says 10 points for HR. Trade them in for a day off work. Mate, there's never a day off over here. We work hard over here at ATF. I would love a day off. Maybe. I don't know. Occasionally I'll treat myself. But, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you, HR. Thank you. Let's also read the quote from O'Malley, who said, UFC's down to get behind stuff like that if it's big enough. Maybe. I don't know if he's even considered a big enough star for the UFC, let alone that to happen. Yeah, I think he's just chatting all air at the moment. I think he's chatting all air. And also, O'Malley post-fight tweeted to Henry Cejudo and says, if you want me to teach you little takedown defense for MMA, let me know. Come down to Peoria. I don't know where that is, but yeah, interesting stuff. Lot to dissect there, guys. Tell that to Sai, who sleeps on the jobs this day. Oh yeah, we've given him a grilling. Don't worry, we've given him a grilling. Moving on then to the other bit of news, which is we got to get into, is the Conor McGregor stuff, because Conor McGregor was insinuating that they were preventing in quotations, were preventing him from fighting in December. Is he referring to the UFC or medical professionals? That's the question, because he released a 3-part voice notes series the other night, basically explaining those things, as well as his concerns towards Chris Weidman. And from my take on it, is it kind of sounded like he was putting the blame towards maybe medical professionals. Maybe people in his team are saying, look, we're not sure if your leg is 100% ready to be taking kicks and taking damage, so we want to hold back on this Chandler fight until you are 100%, because if that leg breaks again, that's your career done. And look, that Chris Weidman fight at the weekend was very hard to watch, and all sorts of damage could have happened. In fact, Chris Weidman even done his ACL in apparently after that on his other leg, so his career is done. And yeah, if you're Conor McGregor, it'd be the wisest move to stay out of it. But the other flip side of that is, of course, is he on the sauce to help his leg heal? Because yes, we know he's not joined the USADA testing pool, and being on all the sauce you can to help heal is probably best, right? So that's, I think, the reason why he's not in the testing pool, and that's the reason why the Chandler fight has not come to fruition yet. But at the same time, if all of this was common knowledge to the higher ups, then why did the UFC decide to do McGregor versus Chandler for TUF 31? Because all of that now just seems a little bit pointless. People in this game move on quick. We forget quick about things. So, if you're heading into next year, and it's just that hype for that fight is just gone, and you got to rebuild it back up again. That's my take on it. I don't know. But however, he did also retweet this, which he did say December is back on the table, and that was as you can see yesterday. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I think maybe his PR team have told him, look, tweet this out there. Let's keep people guessing. Let's keep people wondering. Let's just, let's not put it to bed yet. That's what I think. Steven says, let's go back to Ngannou. Hasn't he just as big as Suga, baddest man on the planet, etc.? UFC wouldn't entertain a cross-fight promotion with boxing, so they won't do it with boxing. Yeah, true. I think Suga could end up being a bigger star than Ngannou, though. I feel. Because Ngannou won the belt, and alright, okay, he defended it, but wasn't the greatest of performances, and then ducked. So he says McGregor is trying to circumnavigate the 6 months USADA rule, basically. That's what I also was wondering as well. The UFC could spontaneously announce this fight at any moment in December. And there you go, it's happening. And that would allow it. You're right. Steven says he wants to not do 6 months thing. He's obviously taking human growth hormone and steroids. Apparently the UFC can get USADA to not do the 6 month testing pool thing. McGregor is asking for that to happen. Basically, he should have got tested. I don't think McGregor has a PR team. His tweets are drug-fueled rants. Yeah, most of them are. I don't know, maybe a little bit of both, but maybe 90% drunk-fueled rants. So, yeah. But yeah, he also went on to say, I feel like I'm being kept from my livelihood and I've been feeling this for years. So maybe he was referring to the UFC. But look, if you are the UFC, you would want him to be 100%. Right? Matt W says Ngannou needed to KO Jones round 1 first, then maybe they would have entertained the Fury fight. Yep. Agreed. I think the UFC could. That's true. I think the UFC would have done. Yeah. Because then, if you're the UFC, what else is left for you for Francis Ngannou after that? You're not going to give him a Sergey Pavlovich. I mean, you could. But is that not going to hurt your superstar? If you just beat John Jones, and if you're Ngannou, do you really want to fight Pavlovich after beating the GOAT? Not really. You want the next big thing. So that's where, yeah, I could see that. But I think it was a smart business move from the UFC to let Ngannou go. Because not only that, he hadn't fought for a long, long time, over a year. Wear and tear. His knees weren't great. You give him a top guy, all of a sudden, the stock just drops, doesn't it? So Steven says the UFC could face hot water if he fights. They could get sued like Mark Hunt got them sued for fighting someone juiced up. That is true. But is Chandler going to do that, though? Because I think it'd be public knowledge that I think Chandler knows. Chandler will know. Mark Hunt wasn't too sure at the time. So I think Chandler would be willing to fight a juiced up Conor for the pay. Mark Hunt, however, wasn't all up for that against Brock Lesnar, and I'm sure the UFC didn't pay him as much as he'd hoped. But let's move on to Volkanovski update, because we got a little bit of an update. Article from, I think it was MMA Fighting, who says, Volkanovski gives an injury update, says Aljamain Sterling fight not happening after UFC 292 loss. So he clearly wanted to entertain that potential super fight if Aljamain had beaten Sean O'Malley. And he also says, got to feel for Aljo, man. I mean, what does he want to do? He's definitely going to want that rematch. That's a big fight. Him versus me. It's just not happening. You never know if he would have had a big win. He could have took Ilia Toporia's spot, but he didn't. And then he later on goes to say, he says, I'm able to do a fair bit regarding his injured elbow. I'm already able to post with it. I'm not punching with it yet, but I will be. I'm staying fit, doing strength, doing everything I need to. I want to be back in there before the end of the year. Islam Makhachev's fighting. I want that rematch, but he's fighting in October, so I want to fight before then. I don't want to fight early next year. If I was going to wait that long, it may as well be Islam, but I don't want to wait that long. So, Ilya, keep running your mouth. I like it. Makes me want to punch you in the face even more. So, man, I'm pumped for that because Ilia Topuria makes a lot of sense. I want to see that fight. Better, more so than the Makhachev one, even though it was a really close fight. It's just because I just don't think we're ready for it, I think if Islam beats Oliveira, then maybe. But then at the same time, you could also make a counter argument and think, well, don't you want to see Islam fight a different contender? You know? Like a Justin Gaethje, perhaps. See how that plays out. I don't know. But then the flip side to that is, well, did we not already see that when we saw Khabib beat Justin Gaethje? So, yeah. Volk could very well get his name back in there. I think he needs to beat Ilia Topuria first. That fight excites me more, to be fair, in my honest opinion. Steven says, my levels of McGregor fighting are so low. He's a professional Twitter user these days. He won't defend a title. He comes and goes. He calls out everyone. Yeah. Yeah, I think that as well. I think everyone's a little bit fed up with Conor McGregor at the moment. You know, he's just like this uncle at a family party who's just drunk and just tries to crack jokes with everybody and he's just not really that funny. I mean, that sometimes he is funny. I'll give that, but that's just kind of what it feels like. You know, he's just a little bit too forced in my opinion. But yeah, that's an update on Volkanovski. Ilia Topuria looks like he's going to be the fight to make. Although we're running out of fight cards, though. I think. What is there left? I don't think he's going to be ready for. He's going to be ready for November. I don't think he will be. I mean, he wanted October, I guess. So, granted. But I think he's ruled out the Sydney card. That's September. That's not too far away. Could he fight on that Abu Dhabi card? I guess they could. They could stack it up. Co-main event. Why not? Why not? I wonder if Volk's up for that. Because, maybe they could do it on the Jones-Miocic card. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, man, that card would be banging. Oh, Jones-Miocic and Volkanovski against Topuria. Woo! But then do they not want Volk to headline? If so, you're running out of fights. Oh, wait, December 16th. I forgot about that. Yes. So they are going to do 2 pay-per-views. That's actually on Wikipedia now. I've noticed that. I was wondering whether they were doing it. Man. 2 pay-per-views. Oh, no, sorry. I'm wrong. Jones-Miocic is in November. Okay. All right. I think it was December this for some reason. Yeah, maybe co-main event that one or main event. We'll have to see. But then for an end of year card, put Volk versus Topuria. I don't know, man. I could go back and forth on this all night. But yeah, let's move on then. The last one then I've got is just an interesting stat in terms of Wei Li Zhang. She outstroked Lemos 296 for 29, the largest differential for a women's fight in UFC history. And that alone, like we said earlier, is she reaching those kind of levels as Amanda Nunes and Shevchenko? When you look at stats like that, you would definitely say yes. And look, that's absolutely madness. She put on a clinic, man, and hats off to Zhang Wei Li, and I can't wait to see her next, whoever that should be. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Let's head on back then to the main screen and wish you a thank you for joining in on this live stream, and of course talking about everything UFC 292. Don't forget to join us this weekend. We've got a fight night earlier time to usual. It will be 1 p.m. here in the UK. That's the main card, of course. I think it's 5 a.m. Pacific time. And then I think it's going to be, 11 a.m. Eastern time, is it? So, yeah, man. Can't wait for an early fight night. If you're over in the US, grab yourself a coffee. Join us for the fights. Get talking. Watch it with us. And, of course, if you're not busy during a Saturday in the UK, then make sure you head down to our live stream and click the notifications bell on our channel so you know when we're live. We'll be live at 1 p.m. UK time, like I said. So make sure you are there. Be there or be square. And for now, good night, and I'll see you this weekend. Bye for now.